What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another efficient episode of the TradeMarke Podcast. We've got a phenomenal guest joining us today. We've got Jonathan Mast from Whitebeard Strategies. Jonathan is an absolute pioneer in the AI world. I know we talk a lot about AI, so we figured we would bring on some of the best in the business in this industry. So we've got Jonathan with us today. But before we dive in, Jonathan, we got question of the day. And this is going to hopefully be an easy question, but could be a hard question. What has been your best use case for AI to date that you've found?
That's actually a great question. It's a hard one because there's been so many, but I think the hardest thing for me to lose at this point would be my AI note taker. I spend most of my day on Zoom meetings and meeting with clients and doing trainings. And if I lost that note taker, whether it's through Zoom or I use read.ai, if I lost that functionality, it would really have a massive productivity hit on me because I have ADD and I don't like taking notes, especially when I'm on a Zoom call because, I don't want to constantly looking down and not paying attention. And I think that for me, that AI note taker, losing that would be the biggest loss that I could get. There's so many other things. I love it, but I think that would be the one that would make me really cringe.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love the note takers as well. Awesome. Well, we're super excited to dive in today. So let's go ahead and get started.
Step into the TradeMarke, your go-to podcast for everything marketing in the trades. Hosted by award-winning industry marketing experts Sarah Gerardo from Remarkable and Eric Thomas from Rival Digital. Together, we're here to unite the worlds of trades and marketing, bringing you insights, stories, and strategies from the heart of the industry. Whether you're a trade professional, a marketing expert, or somewhere in between, this is the place for you. Listen in as we're here for the big ideas, the game changers, and the everyday successes. Because at the TradeMarke, we're with the trades and for the trades.
Whoop, whoop. Super excited. Welcome back, everyone. Jonathan, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to hop on and chat with us today.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. I love talking AI and in a past life, spent a lot of time dealing with trade. So this is kind of like old home week in a way, This is cool.
I love it. Little homecoming. Awesome. Well, Jonathan, why don't we just go ahead and just kick things off if you don't mind. Just briefly introduce yourself for our listeners out there. And
sure.
We'll just take it away from there.
Yeah, happy to do so. So I have spent most of my career in sales and marketing, spent the last 13 of the last 15 years in a digital marketing agency that I started, and we served home services. So I got very familiar with working with trades, and we were a pretty traditional digital marketing company providing everything from websites to ads to you name it. We were blessed. We had a great company. We grew. And then when ChatGPT came out with this incredible wrapper that allowed and made AI approachable, and we've been using it in one form or another for years, it just really, as an ADD entrepreneur, which I am, it really changed my life. And we were at a point with the agency that I was beginning to probably cause more problems than not, because of course, as an ADD guy, I like to get things done now and do things quickly. And that wasn't always according to protocol. Sometimes protocol that I set up, but it's like, okay, it got done. And that was causing more issues. And so it seemed like a good time. I stepped away from the agency back in 2023, and glad to say it's still going well and everything else. And I decided I was going to focus on AI. As I mentioned, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm that, if you're familiar with like EOS, I'm the quintessential visionary founder. That's who I am. It means I drive a lot of my team crazy, and good, bad, or indifferent. But AI really allowed me in my personality to get so much more done, and often to get things done at a higher value than what I was doing before. One of the things that always has frustrated me as an entrepreneur is that I have more ideas than I have time to implement. And a lot of times that meant things that probably should have gotten done didn't get done, or didn't get done in a timely manner because there simply wasn't time. And when I say things like that, they weren't urgent things. The urgent stuff always got done, but some of the non-urgent but important stuff might wait for weeks, months, sometimes even years before I actually got the time to do it, because it kind of had to get up to that urgent point before it got taken care of. And AI allowed me to go through my urgent list really fast to get tons of stuff done. And so my focus now is on AI education, training, and masterminds. And I help businesses and their teams figure out how to leverage AI practically. I'm not a theoretician. I'm not into AI theory. I'm not into what's going to happen in 6 months. I'm really focused on, and I'm looking for my phone. There it is. How do we use our phones and our computers literally today to save 30 to 60 minutes by leveraging AI to do some things that we're already need to do today, things that we're probably going, great, I know I got to do this, but I don't love it, and have AI do some of that heavy lifting as a collaborator with us, not as a replacement, but as a collaborator.
Mm-hmm. And so where do you see, because you worked in the home services, so where do you see AI would be most beneficial to that industry?
Well, I think there are so many places, and it depends partly on the size of the home service company. I know a lot of home service companies that are solopreneurs, or maybe solopreneurs and one or two people in the office helping out with things. I think one of the big things there, and refer back to a roofer that I just talked to the other day, good sized roofing company, multi-million-dollar roofing company. They're doing lots of work, but they use contractors to do a lot of the overflow. They've got like one or two crews, but when they get super busy, they've got contract crews. And they ran into an issue that we've probably all ran into before, which is, how do I get the foreman on those contract crews to make sure they're doing the things that make us as a roofing company look good when they show up? And we were chatting, and he was saying, I need a better process for when they arrive at the house. They're not necessarily going and greeting and looking for the homeowner like we want them to do before we make a mess of their yard and their roof and everything else. And they're not explaining about the noise, and they're not explaining how many days it may take and what to expect. And he said, even though the homeowner's already been told all this by a project manager, it's so helpful to have the foreman, when they arrive on site, just spend 10 minutes with the homeowner, solves tons of customer service expectation issues. And I'm like, well, do you have an SOP? And he goes, well, yeah, but I don't know that they're doing anything with it. And so we took a minute, we uploaded his SOP into ChatGPT, we explained the situation, and in about 30 seconds after we did that, we had an incredibly revised, detailed SOP of how those foremen should be walking in and dealing with that new job site. He goes, well, that's great, that's more detailed, but he goes, how do I make sure they're doing it? And so we asked ChatGPT to create a checklist for the foreman, knowing the foreman's busy and doesn't want to go through all these details. How can we make it easy for them and add some accountability? And again, in about 30 seconds later, we had a checklist. And he's like, oh my gosh, that will solve probably 80% of the issues. All the issues? No. But literally in a 10-minute conversation, we solved a problem that he'd been struggling with for weeks, trying to figure out what to do, maybe months. He didn't share exactly how long. And that's just one of a gazillion examples. It can help out with, the emails that we have to send when a project's being delayed, or when we're waiting on parts, or maybe when a client's unhappy about something that took place, or we need to reschedule because, you know what, Billy's got a basketball game that I promised I'd go to and I forgot about it and I got to reschedule. We all have lives and that happens, but sometimes writing those emails, communicating that, it's arduous. And so we sometimes go, you know what, I'm just not going to say much about it and I'll deal with it later. Well, that's not good for relations. And ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, any of those AI tools, they can help us in those areas in literally right from our phone solve all those issues for us and allow us to move on. So I could go a lot more, but just off the top of my head, those are a couple of quick examples.
Yeah, those are great examples because, when you are starting and you do have it's just you need to automate as much as you can.
Yep.
To become efficient, right? Because there's only so much time in a day. And that's why I love using AI. It's like, there's only so much time in a day. I'm not smarter than a computer, like, or a large learning, like I'm not smarter than a cell phone.
Absolutely.
But at the same time,
yeah. Sorry, no, go ahead.
At the same time, it just helps me ideate. It helps me think bigger, right?
Yeah. No, it's one of my favorite uses for AI is just brainstorming and helping me refine my ideas and go through things like that. In fact, I was just talking this morning to a client. I have a board of advisors. I don't run a big company. We've got 5 of us total, so we're not that big. And I have a board of advisors that has been programmed and set up. And that board of advisors is made up of some historical figures, some people that have passed recently. And in my case, even a fictional character from the movie Iron Man. I have Tony Stark as one of my guys. And people are like, why Tony Stark? And I'm like, well, one, I just like the movie and it was cool. And he's nice. But we had AI create a virtual avatar for every one of the individuals. And now when I have questions, again, literally from my phone, and this is the benefit in home services, you can be hopping in your truck and go, man, I've got 10 minutes. I need to figure out a problem. Pull up like your advisory board and ask it a question. And you'll get reasonable, sometimes incredible answers and insights back that, again, as a small business, oftentimes we just don't have access to. It can be very lonely being that entrepreneur and going, okay, I don't know who to ask about this. Maybe it's an HR issue. How do I deal with an employee that, darn it, I need them. If they quit, I got more work, but I also got to draw some guidelines and boundaries. And how do I do that in a way that's firm and yet has some empathy for their situation? Enter ChatGPT and describe the situation and ask for advice, and you'll get that. And at least in my case, not being an HR specialist, it's 100 times better than whatever I would have come up with.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And you mentioned earlier, like just using it to find ways to save 30 to 60 minutes a day. That really resonated with me because I feel like a lot of people get overwhelmed with it. And they try to see how they can save 8 hours a day at first.
Yes.
So what are some of the common mistakes you see people making when they're first getting started trying to save that 30 to 60 minutes a day?
I think you hit on one of the major ones, in that we expect it to be an easy button. In other words, we expect it to like replace all of the stuff, and that I can take my 16 hours of work that I'm currently cramming into 12 hours each day and somehow turn it into 30 minutes. That's not going to happen. You're still needed as part of the process. The other thing is that I think too often we overcomplicate it. We're not looking for the simple, quick wins that can help us out. For example, we're not going, okay, I need to send an email or a text to this client, and you know what? I don't know what to say. So now I can use ChatGPT to help me do that and do that very quickly. I need to follow up with an employee. I need to follow up on this issue, whatever it is. I need to reach out to a vendor. Anything communication related, it can help out with. The other thing I think that's a big issue is, as a general rule, we forget that, like any relationship, and while AI is certainly not sentient and it's not a person, it's a large language model. The way in which we communicate with it makes a tremendous difference in the responses that it gives back to us. And as a general rule, I think we fail as users, especially when we're getting started, to give it enough context. And so what ends up happening is we go, oh, I've got this, I've got a new relationship with my roofer again. I've got a new relationship with a new shingle company, and I want to do a press release about it because it'll get me some exposure and this will be amazing. And so we go to ChatGPT and we go, write me a press release about my new affiliation with this company. And then we get a press release back and we're like, well, that doesn't sound like me. It's not even very good. This AI stuff, it sucks. Because we never gave it any context. We never reminded it who we were. We never told it what audience we was. We didn't tell it what the objective of the press release was. And so one of the things I advise everybody to do is, when you're done, or when you think you're done prompting, add one extra sentence to every prompt. And that's, ask me any questions you have. Because when you do that, the AI model will come back and go, well, geez, Jonathan, or geez, user, I don't know who you are. I should have asked, I need a few more bits of information in order to do this right. And then when I respond, which is easy because it gave me the questions, then I can get a response back that's truly incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great way to segue kind of into this prompting mastery topic, because I know we always say a lot here that the power's in the prompt. And
yes.
And I feel like that's something that I struggle a lot with whenever I get a bad output, or whenever I perceive that I've gotten a bad output. Most of the time it's because the input was bad, the prompt was bad, the information I gave it is bad. What are some tips or some good advice outside of that awesome nugget you just shared there? What other tips or advice you have for folks often when it comes to prompting to make sure that they're really getting the best output?
So the first tip I have is, try to avoid buying prompt lists. There's all kinds of vendors out there purporting that they've got the perfect list of 870. I saw one the other day, 10,008 prompts to buy. Not that they're all bad, although all the ones that I've bought have been, but I'm sure there's probably some good ones. The real issue is it's not efficient. to go through and decide, all right, I need a prompt to write an SOP for my foreman, and then to go looking through even 87 prompts to try to find the right one and then change it, it's just not efficient. It's not a good use of your time. It's frustrating. Instead, I recommend people use what I call the perfect prompting framework, and it's 4 simple steps. I already gave you number 4. That's the most important one. But start by just telling the AI, you're an expert in whatever it is. You're an HR expert. You're a marketing expert. You're a sales expert. You're a customer service expert. Then explain your situation. So maybe I say, you're an expert press release writer. I just signed a new vendor relationship with ABC Shingle Company. I want to leverage this to showcase how much we're committed to our customers, how much information that we want to share, how and make me, perceived as higher value. And by the way, I'm ABC Roofing and we do residential roofing in Dallas, Texas.
Mhm.
Step 3, write me the press release. That's what we're good at. Step 3 is easy. And then step 4 is ask me any questions you have. And when you put that together like that, now when I've forgotten some things, which I do all the time when I'm prompting, it's going to go ahead and ask me those questions. But in most cases, if I give it the context and I ask it to ask me clarifying questions, again, I'm going to be able to get tremendous responses. And here's the good news. We can create that prompt on almost any topic in just a minute or 2. So that's a lot faster than dealing with this prompt encyclopedia that I want to go through or maybe don't want to go through in order to find the perfect prompt.
Mhm. Mhm. And
always-
when you find yeah, sorry, Eric.
No, I was just going to make a joke that I swear those like prompt Bibles that I see Instagram at for, I bought one once and I was like, this person 100% went to ChatGPT and said, provide me with a list of 800 productivity prompts for me to sell. And then they copy and pasted it and sold it. And I was like, this was the biggest waste of $9 in my life.
You spent $9 and so they got $9.
Yeah.
Right? How many $9 do you need? I mean, it's kind of genius in some ways. But the prompt it's so important. Do you ever ask it to give you the prompt? So like you write out the prompt first.
I do.
And then say, hey, give me the prompt. And then do you put it into like a special GPT so that you can continue to use the same prompt?
It's like you've read my mind. Yeah. So I actually take the perfect prompt framework and I encourage you to do that. So if you're not familiar, both ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini all allow you to do what they call a custom trained model. In ChatGPT, we call them custom GPTs. And you can literally create one, take that 4-step framework that I gave you and just say, I'm going to give you an objective and I want you to follow step 1 through 4 and I want you to give me the prompt. It's literally all you need to do. You can save that. And I have one called my perfect prompt creator that I use it daily. And that's the instructions essentially. When I then have an idea, it's like, oh, I did one earlier today. I was talking to a client and he's like, I need some help figuring out where we're wasting time and money. How can AI help? And I said, well, AI first needs data to do that. And I recommend you do an interview. So I went to my perfect prompt creator and I said, write me a prompt with variables that allows me to put in some variables in there that would interview a company owner asking one question at a time to help identify what areas they could save time and money in within their business. And when you've got enough information, provide recommendations. It was a really long prompt when I got done, but that's all I gave it. And I just sent it off to the client and he's like, oh my gosh, this is like amazing. And it does. Now AI is literally interviewing you as a business owner to find out what areas exist that could you possibly save time or money. So it's almost like having a consultant in your pocket, but the beauty is a consultant on whatever you need.
Yeah. Whatever you need. Yeah. I've asked some pretty random questions.
As have I. Yes, absolutely. But that gets back to kind of one of the first things we talked about. If you're newer to AI, don't hesitate. Ask it random questions. Try it out. It's not going to bite. Just, ask it some questions. And sometimes you can just do it for fun. I mean, I use it for work all day long, but I was sharing just the other night, my wife and I have been married for 22 years and she shared that Open Arms, it's either Foreigner or Journey, I don't remember who sung it, was her favorite rock ballad of all time. We've been married 22 years. I never knew that before. If she told me, I forgot. I don't know. But I then used AI. It was about 11 o'clock at night and we were both getting tired. And I went into ChatGPT and I had it write based upon that song and based upon that musical style, write me lyrics and give me a musical style. And then I went over to another AI tool called Refusion, which is a free music generator, and I had it create the song. And I texted it to my wife, and my wife's like, "What are you texting me?" I mean, we're sitting 3 feet away. She's like, "Why are you texting me?" And I'm like, "Well, just listen." And she listened to it, and I'm telling you what, she got a tear in her eye. She was happy, and I'm like, "Yes, win for the husband." And it was like, that was awesome, and it was fun at the same point in time. I'm not a music person. I'm not great at writing music, but when I give it decent instructions, again, great moment. Passed really quickly because we were both tired and we're 55, but it passed and we went on from there.
Yeah. Yeah. We use Zingo a lot to create, to show people that you can create jingles and music for their businesses. And then we, at the end of our, the events that we have, we ask for reviews that way. And so they're all like, what? And I'm like, yeah, there's so many fun things you can do with AI. And sometimes I feel like I go down a rabbit hole because there are so many things that I want to do. But you keep saying just one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Great.
It's so important. Yeah. And don't try, if you're a business owner going, how do I bring AI into my business and with my team? Don't try to do it all today. Just do one thing. Challenge your team. If you've got even a small team, look, here's AI, here's some basics on it. Try to figure out what we can do this week to save 30 minutes. Now, I promise you, you're going to save a lot more than 30 minutes. Then you're going to go, well, hang on, that was cool. I actually got more time, and you're going to start thinking of more and more things. And if you do that every week for a few weeks, then it's going to almost become second nature. And it's kind of like, me imagining how in the world did we live before we had these on our hip and in our pocket all the place. While there may be moments I wish we didn't, it's hard to remember back to before we had those. And how did we get by when, we did stuff? So just one thing at a time, like you said, it's like anything else. The other thing is, I think people and business owners, especially because of just who we are as entrepreneurs, we tend to go on this quest for the perfect tool. We want the perfect tool. First of all, there isn't a perfect tool. If there were one, it would be updated by somebody next week anyway, at the fast pace of the way AI is changing. But the tool that you have access to today, again, whether that's ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude or Gemini or whatever, will allow you to do so much more than you can do without that tool. Don't try to be, I've got to be at 100%. No, this is a perfect 80-20 rule. Do 20% of the work to get 80% of the gains. And then you'll have some time, if you want to, in your spare time, search for that perfect tool. But I'll give you a hint, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, going back to the music thing, I think that, I don't think enough people are realizing the opportunity that it lies ahead of them with AI, and also some of the dangers of it. So 3-4 years ago, if you wanted to prepare a song for your wife that would have brought tears to her eye, you would have had to go take guitar lessons, learn how to write music, learn how to sing. And that could have taken years, whereas, it took you 3 minutes. So that's where I think the people that can harness this type of stuff, it's no longer about having the skill to do it. It's about having, the trial and error, and the prompting to do anything. It's even, simple things like, it's just personally what I use it for a lot is creating WordPress plugins, for websites. Oh, yeah. Why would I sit here and write PHP for 6 hours, 8 hours, beating my head against a keyboard when I could have it, I'll prompt it and it'll provide all the code. And then I can then go there and be like, all right, that's a little wonky, fix this, tighten that up. And now I'm done. It would have taken weeks to get done, prior to that. So I think just finding little things with it is, like you said, 30 minutes a week. Just trying to do 30 minutes a week is the way to go. And, but on the flip side of that, the dangers of it too, I do think there's going to come a time in the future where people are going to it's going to go from not believing that it's you or not believing it is you to not believing that it's not you. Where kind of like we were talking earlier, where someone had gotten hacked and it was a video being sent out requesting money, and it looked and it sounded and they thought it was her. And so people started sending money to this spammer. So I think there could be some serious backlash in the future where it's like, oh, well, I don't like Jonathan, but there's enough video and audio on the internet of him that I'm going to go make a blackmail video of him and send it out. And so that's where I could see it being a little dangerous one day.
I agree. I think there's definitely dangers as there are with any tools. I think, as a business owner, it's one of the reasons, especially if you're in home services, you're working in a local community, it's that much more important that you develop your personal brand and your company brand really strongly. Because if you want to do that to me, I promise you, there's enough video. I've got over 1,000 videos on YouTube. There's plenty of videos that you can use and pirate and figure out how to make Jonathan say something he hasn't done with tools that they have out now. There's plenty of audio to do that. But if somebody were to do that and it's not in align with what everybody has learned to expect from me, all I have to do is go, guys, it's very obvious that's not me. And people will go, oh yeah, you're right. You've never done that. You've never acted like that. Makes sense. But if you don't have a strong brand and you haven't been working on that as a business and as an individual, and I think both are important, especially for home services when, again, we're working in local communities. Then if somebody, a competitor, maybe an ex-employee, maybe somebody you used to date, I don't know, gets mad and tries to cause problems for you, it's a whole lot harder to walk away from that because there isn't any other content out there to prove who you are. So I think it's that much more important nowadays that, one, we're authentic. We AI allows us to be less than authentic. We need to definitely maintain that authenticity. And I think we need to remember when it comes to sales related stuff, that people still buy from people they know, like, and trust. And therefore, we shouldn't try to automate everything that we're doing in the process. You'd mentioned it earlier. If we can save 50% of the time, 75, 80% of the time, that's still a massive win, even if we didn't take 8 hours and turn it into 10 minutes. And I think that's important that we focus on all of those aspects together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think safety and compliance is a business owner needs that in general, but there are ways to, AI can be scary. I think you just need to know. You just need to be alerted. Like, the infrastructure of small businesses when it comes to IT compliance is sometimes non-existent because they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And so I think this is going to ask them, okay, well, what do I need to stay safe? What do I need to protect my customer data? What do I need to protect my brand? And also, like, how do I continue to build my brand in a way with AI so that I can build it faster and still remain authentic? So yeah, I think if I were to give business owners advice that didn't have an IT framework just in general, be like, let's just start there. Right?
Yeah.
Like, what are we missing? And then what I like to do is go to the employee and like you said, you set up interview questions of what is in their job. For me, I ask the employee, I'm like, go through every single task of your job and write it out. And tell me what you do not like to do.
Yes.
Tell me what time does this take you? And let's see if we can cut it down. It's not a promise. It's like, let's just figure it out together. And then we put it in AI and we look at the inefficiencies. And then we take it to a growth engineer and we're like, hey, help us automate it, right? I think that marketing roles and a lot of our roles will look a little bit different. And
no question.
Yeah, and completely shifting at this moment, actually. And what do you think that marketing role really looks like for agencies and then for, let's say, a marketing person inside of the company?
If I can, let me address it in reverse order. So let's first address the team member. I think that, it's natural that a lot of team members look at AI and they're concerned. They're going, man, if I embrace this, I might work myself out of a job and that would really suck. There's of course a risk of that, but I think the bigger risk to an employee is to play the ostrich and stick their head in the sand and go, I'm not going to do anything. Because while I don't think that many people are going to be replaced with AI, I absolutely think those people that refuse to figure out how to leverage their skill and experience with AI will be the first ones to get replaced. I'm older than both of you, but I remember when I got in the workforce, they were just putting PCs on desktops. And literally, there were people that still had typewriters and adding machines. And some of those people, generally with as much white hair as I have today, would go, no, I'm not going to do that. And they were allowed to get away with that for a year or two. But then even they had to switch or they were going to lose their job because the industry moved, the business moved, and everybody else did. AI is not going away. It's not something for us to ignore. So if you're a team member, my recommendation is figure out how to become an expert at using the tool, not necessarily at everything and how to develop or that, but just at using ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude to help bring more value to the customers you serve and to your employer. And when you do that, you will become indispensable and you won't be losing your job. In fact, you'll probably be getting a raise.
Mhm.
From the employer perspective as a company, I think we need to understand that really as we're doing this in 2025, if we don't embrace AI and start doing it, it's at the peril not only of our business, but of all those that we're responsible to, because our competitors will. And here's probably the big difference. A year ago in 2024, we were about a little over a year into ChatGPT. There were still a lot of people that weren't really sure about what to do with it. They weren't really expecting much. From a consumer perspective today, we're seeing that change dramatically. We don't all want to talk to AI, but we almost all want the option to do so. In other words, if I call in and it's a 3-minute wait with my bank and I've got a simple question, I'd really rather just talk to AI and deal with it than waiting 3 minutes. And if I'm calling Comcast or my local cable provider and it's a 3-hour wait, then I really want to talk to AI instead of talking to somebody else. But I want the option to do that. And I think as a home services business, we need to keep in mind, we need to start providing more and more options like that, whether that may be booking appointment. So I just had an electrician at my house adding some outlets and it was great. We were literally able to do it right through their website. We didn't have to talk to anybody. We were able to book it all. And it was great because my wife and I did it at 11 o'clock at night. It was, okay, we thought about it. We talked about it and it was booked. 3 days later, yep, they show up. We got all the text confirmations. But that, I think, is what people are beginning to expect. I don't want to be forced to talk to an AI, but I want that option because it's that level of service that's going to help you grow your business. And here's the good news. That's not an expensive thing for people to do or for businesses to implement either. So I think we need to be cognizant as business owners that it's time to embrace this, both for our business and to encourage our team to do this, because if not, our competition will.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I 1000% agree.
What about from the agency side? Where are you seeing?
Oh, yeah.
As far as like where agencies are kind of headed in regards to AI.
I think very similar. So as I mentioned, I come from that background. That's where I go. I've got a lot of agency clients because I spent almost 15 years in that world, so I know a lot of them. From an agency side, I think that there are still a lot of agencies that are like, I don't know, I really want to go with AI. And if I do, I don't want to tell my clients because all my clients are going to expect to save money. And I think we need to reposition and get in front of that and let them know that as an agency, we are absolutely going to be leveraging AI to bring you more value, to be able to create better campaigns, more campaigns, do more than what we were able to do for you a year ago or even a month ago because we're embracing AI and position it as a value add to the customer. I think two things happen in that. There's still so many agencies that are not embracing AI or don't want to talk about it, that you are immediately positioning yourself as a leader, and that's what you want to do. You're also getting in front of does that mean I save money? No, it means you get a lot more stuff. And when we do more work, you sell more stuff. So would you rather save a few dollars or would you rather us help you sell more stuff? Every business owner is going to go, I want you to help me sell more stuff. Great.
Yeah.
And just like that, you've taken that discussion about, well, that's going to cost me less, right? And just be honest, no, but we're going to be able to do so much more for you. We're going to add more value. That's ultimately more money in your pocket. We're going to be able to write better ads. We're going to be able to write better copy for the landing pages. That drip email campaign that we talked about last year that we ran out of hours because there wasn't time to do, we can now do 3 of them this year instead because we can leverage AI to do that. And we can customize it because our agency has perfect processes in place that are, by the way, ours. We've done, make it your own process. Doesn't have to be anything else. But if you work with us, we're going to train the AI to reflect your tone and style. So when we create that content, it's not going to sound like ChatGPT wrote it and talk about delving and game-changing tools. No, instead, it's going to sound like you and your business. And by the way, as an agency, that now creates stickiness. So we all know somebody's brother-in-law or whatever, they get in the business and they're like, hey, I got to switch. I got to move. Well, now when that happens, all we have to do is go, well, that I certainly understand you want to support the brother-in-law, but does he have his AI models trained on how to sound and reflect like you? When he writes ads, is it going to be in your tone and style? And they're going to go, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
And when the brother-in-law says, not really, now it's another reason that person's going to stay with you. Because if they leave you, that knowledge base that you've grown for them, that stays with you, and that means they lose it. So it's another way to create stickiness with your clients.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great take. I think agencies definitely, if the smart ones are switching to,
I agree,
more towards that model, because what I've kind of explained to some clients and to our team is the more time we're able to put back into the calendars of our specialists, the more time we're able to put to our clients as strategists, instead of hey, the first 2 weeks of the month are going to be spent editing SEO copy and websites and, all this stuff. Now we can have the people on calls now we have a full team of trusted advisors that have more time in their calendar to meet with you, Mr. or Mrs. Client. We can actually, use the big brain stuff for the big brain stuff and let AI do the grunt work.
Yeah, I mean, you get to spend more of that time with the power, and that power comes from that direct knowledge, that direct feedback. Mm-hmm. And again, if we can use AI as business owners to leverage what we're doing and to amplify our skill and experience, which is ultimately what I believe AI does, that means we have more time, like you said, to focus on the things we want, whether that's Billy's basketball game at 3 p.m, or that's the fact that I can spend 10 more minutes chatting with a client that's been a client for the last 3 years, building that relationship, building that rapport, and making sure that they don't even consider leaving me for somebody else. Because the reality is, as an agency, at least my belief is, again, old 80-20 rule, but 80% of the deals you lose aren't because necessarily you're doing a bad job. It's because the client perceives you don't care. And if you can help them see that you care, give them a little more TLC, whatever that looks like, and AI can now give you, as the agency owner, that time and that bandwidth to be able to give a little more TLC. And, if we can drop our churn, that's good for every agency out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Personally, I wouldn't be working with an agency that isn't leveraging AI, right? Because, and I hate to say that, but I need innovation. I need more. I need someone to, produce faster quality content, whatever they're doing. And the build of the websites, yes, eventually it will go down in cost. But right now I need to learn and buy the tools, is what I would say, so that we can test and iterate and make the best process for you. Because I can build a website for free in 30 seconds and then launch, right, with AI. And e-commerce brands do this every day, and they have millions and billions of dollars of sales. So, it's taking that archaic way of thinking of hey, you need a website with 400 pages, 300 million backlinks, and all of this stuff, and saying, hey, I can produce faster, quicker, iterate. And then I'm looking for that when I look for an agency, right? Tell me something different.
Yeah, the speed of business is not slowing down, it's speeding up. And as a result, like you said, that agency needs to be able to be nimble. You need to be able to react to me. When I have an idea as a business owner or something that I want to implement because I saw a competitor doing it or I read something, I don't want to be told, well, next month we should be able to get that done for you. I want it done this afternoon. And AI can help do that. Maybe not this afternoon, but certainly this week, as opposed to, well, we got to get that in the queue, and that's going to be the agencies that fall into the I'll get to that someday are going to have lots of time someday, because they're going to start losing clients to the agencies that are nimble and are like, great, no problem. We can get you a minimum viable product out there in 3 days that will allow people to start signing up for this new service, as opposed to 3 weeks or 3 months, which happens so often in the agency world when you've already forgotten why it was important to you.
Yeah. I'm big on doing screen tests often. So a lot of times I'll have the team be like, all right, do this system wide, just this one thing system wide. And we'll just see if we'll see who, if anyone, screams. And it was probably, I don't know, half a year, 8 months ago or so, maybe close to a year ago now. I was like, just for 1 month, let's produce nothing but AI content. And we'll same process, we'll send it to him for approval. Whatever. Not a peep. I was like, all right, do it again next month. Did it. We had, I think, probably 5 or 6 people reach out to me directly and say, Eric, I don't know what changes you guys have made, but the content has been really, really good lately.
I love it. Exactly.
I was like, okay. And so then I was like, all right, let's do the screen test on the opposite side. Let's flip it back to our old process for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had different people reach out being like, I don't like this. I need to change this. We need to edit that. That's wrong. I was like, that's interesting.
Exactly. Well, and again, I think a point you make there that's so important is that you're using, again, your skill and experience to have AI create more value, not less. It wasn't about, let's just throw out 10 times more content because it's more content. It was, let's use AI and use what we know to create better content that converts better, that's more focused. And the thing I love as a marketer is we can now leverage AI to do much more niche and targeted based marketing. So instead of writing one email campaign that goes out to everybody on a nurture sequence, because we don't have time or budget to create more, we can now create 5, 10, or 15 of those campaigns. And with the technology we have, it's really easy in our marketing automation systems to segment our lists. And now I can make sure that, if I'm a roofer working with homeowners and you live in this suburb, I'm going to send you one thing. And if you live over here, and maybe that's a younger demographic, more kids, and that I'm going to send you different types of content. You can appeal to your audience more, and that means you're more relevant. And AI can do that so easily. We just need to begin with that great master copy, which is why you as a marketer are so important. And then we can leverage that and tweak that into things that are going to add more value to the audience. And when we add more value to the people we're serving, they do more with us and spend more money and refer more people.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's really good. So we're about 15 minutes away from the top of the hour. I know you have a hard stop. So I just, before we start winding down here, is there anything we haven't asked yet that you were hoping to hit on or highlight?
No, I think it's been a great conversation so far. And I love just encouraging people to not try to do everything. Focus on using the tools that you have in front of you and make significant gains there. And then down the road, let's start worrying about optimizing.
Yeah. And I have one last question for you. What is your favorite tool to use right now? Because there's so many, and Manus just came out, but what do you love to use?
Yeah, great question. So because I'm a coach and trainer in AI, I subscribe to pretty much everything that's out there, at least all the major models. I try out a lot of the new tools that come out. I'll be honest, most of those I cancel within 36 hours of buying it. Just enough to try it, open it up and go, nope, that's not any better than what I had. On a day-to-day basis, about 80% of my work still happens in ChatGPT. And the main reason is one, it's a very good model. I've got it in front of me, and it allows me to set up custom GPTs that I can share with my team. For those people who don't know what that is, that's a custom trained version. And I can do that in Claude and I can do that in Google, but I can't share them with my team in the same way. And that ability to have a GPT that my team can use that helps do things in a consistent manner. It's the same reason that McDonald's sells more hamburgers than anybody else. They may not be the best hamburgers, but no matter where you go in the world, that hamburger tastes the same. And that means they sell more hamburgers. When you can create that consistency, and ChatGPT helps us do that as a team, it wins. And again, that's the reason I still use it more than I use any other model.
I love it. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being on our show today. We really great content. If someone wanted to reach out to you, how would they get a hold of you? Where can they find your classes? Tell me all the dish.
Really simple. Just remember my name, Jonathan Mast. And if you would go to jonathanmast.com, that's MAST/Linktree. I've got tons of free resources. I've got a massive Facebook group. If you're interested in learning about AI, we give away tons of information. There's a few paid resources there too, but there's tons of free stuff. And if not, just remember I've got this long white beard, and you can go to whitebeardstrategies.com. You'll get the same information.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. And this has been great. And thank you to everyone out there listening. We appreciate you all coming back each week and hanging out with us. And we will chat with you all soon.
And that wraps up another episode of The Trademark, where we bridge the worlds of the trades and marketing, one story at a time. We can't wait to see you next time. Thank you to the trades for giving back big, loving big, and taking massive action. Don't forget to join us next time for more engaging conversations and innovative ideas. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review and share it with your colleagues and friends in the trades and marketing. Your support means the world to us. Stay connected with us off the air by following us on social media. We'd love to hear your thoughts and get your feedback. Until next time, keep making your mark in the trades. Thank you for listening to The Trademark. Goodbye for now, and remember, we're with the trades for the trades.